Hello, everyone. This is Matthew Brand. Thanks for tuning in to Magnum Creed. This episode was brought to you by Michael Bloomberg's Crusty Cobweb Vagina. Now, if you're not familiar with Magnum Creed, I'd like to talk to you about stuff school doesn't teach you. Today's subject is 9x19 or 9mm Luger. Why it's overrated for civilian concealed carry. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good round or even an excellent round, but I've watched and listened to a lot of gun advice and podcasts and talks, all kinds of stuff where 9mm as a cartridge is very overhyped, mostly by Glock fanboys and people who are making sales, right? But before I bash on the round a little, let's talk about the main advantages. One, it holds a reliable number of acceptable rounds for the power and the size of the gun. Two, it has low recoil. Three, it's cheaperish. Now, it can have other minor advantages, but regardless, most of these advantages in general depend on the gun and perhaps more importantly, your expectation of using it and the brand of ammo you're getting. Many people don't carry full-size or even compact guns due to either laws, practicality, etc. Instead, they may carry a smaller, more concealable gun with a capacity in the single digits. And believe it or not, most of these 9mm ammo weren't designed for these shorter barrel guns, right? The brands and whatever, they're designed for guns that are 4-barrel, 5-barrel, 4-inch barrel, 5-inch barrel, 4-barrel gun. That'd be cool. I think they have one. But anyway, if your barrel is around 3 inches or shorter, the vast majority of rounds underperform. Even in a crappy gel testing that doesn't include bones, muscle, any clothing thicker than denim, right? The FBI standard is for consistency. It's not really meant to simulate the human body, tissue, what a bullet would do in the human body. But even in that gel testing, even in the ballistic gel testing, the 9mm out of those 3-inch whatever, they underperform. Yes, even federal HST, which is, the golden jewel of ammo sometimes. What often happens is you either sacrifice penetration or expansion. There is some exception when it comes to powerful plus P ammo that your gun wasn't likely meant for you to shoot often. Another few issues with this solution, you probably aren't practicing with it very much. You probably have higher recoil, and it's probably pretty expensive. For those with full-size 9mm, you are sacrificing power for capacity. But with rounds like 40 Smith & Wesson, you aren't gaining that much capacity, but you're losing a lot of power when you switch to 9mm. Many will argue that shot placement is more important than power, and I wholeheartedly agree. But a lot of civilian encounters don't leave time for pinpoint accuracy. Anyway, and this is where I go off on a little bit of a tangent, so try to bear with me. If you are using a more powerful caliber, when it does hit the spot, even with shot placement, you're going to do more damage, right? More damage to whatever it hits. And people talk about wound cavities and all this stuff and temporary wound cavities, but the point is, it's not that you are going to knock someone down. Like, there's not the knockdown power. And it's not that you're going to hit somebody so hard that they, explodes in their stomach. But the pain from it will often drop somebody a lot faster, or the damage done to the organ or whatever part of the body it hits, the bone. When it does hit stuff like that, it's going to do much more damage than a 9mm. Unless, I'm not talking about smaller calibers than 9mm. I'm talking about much more powerful calibers, 40 Smith & Wesson, 10mm, 357 Magnum, 44 Magnum. I'm not going to necessarily say 45 ACP leaves a wide channel, or a wide wound, a big wound. But even if you're talking about someone bleeding out short, they'll bleed out faster from 45 ACP. That's not as important in the immediate when you're fighting somebody. But if that's important to you, yes, they will likely bleed out faster from 45 ACP if they don't get to the hospital very fast. However, in the immediate, when you're in a confrontation that's, right then, you might have to fire more 9mm rounds to do the same amount of damage as let's say twice as many 9mm rounds to do the same amount of damage as 2 357 rounds. Why that's important is because every time you fire your weapon, and once again, I'm just ranting, this is opinion or whatever, but every time you fire that weapon, you're opening up more liability, you're opening up more things that can go wrong, right? Just like the more parts you have to operate with a gun to get it going, you're opening up more chances of failure. Same thing with, okay, if you need to fire more rounds, you're not always going to hit the person exactly where you want to or as many times as you want to or hope to. I've seen many shootings, videos, and a couple in person where people shot at someone quite a few times and they might have only hit them once. And unfortunately, sometimes that once just wasn't good enough. They fired 5 times, and that one bullet didn't do enough damage or didn't hit the person or hurt them enough to stop them in their tracks. Where when I see it with a more powerful caliber, it just does the job. Now, that's my opinion. That's from my personal experience in watching, shootings on video and even having to be around a few in person. And some people say, oh, well, if you're, unless it goes the speed of, a rifle, it doesn't matter. That doesn't make any sense, because then why would you ever use a shotgun slug? Of course, I'm not saying that handgun calibers are shotgun slugs. I'm not saying that. But more power does do more damage. It's just the fact. However, that doesn't matter as much as where the bullet hits. But keep in mind, the bullet isn't always going to hit exactly where you want to, especially when you're in the rough, in the thick of things, and the adrenaline's pumping, and everybody's, moving and trying to hurt people, or win, and they're fighting for their lives. Things don't go the way you want it to. Do you really want to hope that you have all these bullets in your gun to hit this person that many times? 2, if you're carrying a much smaller gun caliber, you're only getting what, 1 or 2 more bullets. Something to think about. Not saying that 9mm is a bad round. It's just sometimes very overrated, and people should weigh their options. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you. Peace out.